The way that she describes her love between her siblings and her parents is not only, you know, the beautiful times, but it's also these like very difficult, ugly, almost scary times. And to see that, when I was reading it, it's just like every page is just another. It's just another side of this love, you know, and some of it just makes you really hate some characters, and then they do something else and you love them again, and then you hate them, and but it just felt, I don't know, it just felt so real and felt so relatable and so cathartic for me to read. This is a story of a young woman who is filtering through her past and trying to make sense of it, and trying to find, you know, a new sense of peace with herself and with her relationship with her dad. Even though it is a story from a female perspective, it's something that I completely relate to, and it's like, you know, it's that Jeannette is at this time in her life when she's in her mid-20s, and she's now old enough to start to, you know, piece together her past and try to make sense of it, you know, and try to figure out who she is based on all these things that have happened to her in her past. And I think that's definitely something I did in my 20s. I think that's something a lot of people do in their 20s, is they, you know, it's their first time either maybe their first time seeing a therapist or taking an intro to psychology class and looking into their past and figuring out what it is that still affects them. She's interesting to direct because most of the time I don't say anything, or you know, a lot of times she and I will discuss a scene before, and both of us don't really know how it's going to go. And eventually we just say, oh, let's just try it, and then she just does it, and this thing just erupts from her that is not, it's not like, I don't want to say it's not reasonable, but it's not something that you can like cognitively compute and figure out beforehand. So much of her performance comes from her ability to be so in the moment and tap into so much depth that it's like, I don't know, it blows me away every time. You know, it's like watching a magician. He took this role extremely seriously, you know. He did a lot of his own research and was jumping into, you know, we were able to get him a lot of Rex's actual journals that he wrote, and so he was able to read a lot of Rex's thoughts, and which were, you know, like very extremely smart, interesting, wild thoughts, you know, and it's a mixture of that, the little bit of video that we have of Rex Walls from a documentary, were, you know, I think enough ingredients for Woody to digest and transform into this really multifaceted, beautiful, crazy character that I just can't wait to see more of. Naomi disappears in this role. The first time that Naomi showed me, we had a couple audio recordings of Rosemary and Naomi, and so Naomi was kind of studying her voice, and she asked me, she sent me an audio recording early on before we were shooting to see what I thought of the voice, and I listened to it, and it was the same recording that I had sent her, and so I listened to it and I said, okay, so now I thought on the phone she was going to mimic it or something, but then she said, so what did you think? And I was like, of the audio that I sent you of the real Rosemary? And she said, no, that was me mimicking the audio that I sent you. So I listened to it again, and it was actually Naomi just speaking, and it sounded exact. It was such a trip. A lot of the different departments are getting their inspiration from the journey of Jeannette. And Jeannette goes from a wide-eyed believer in her dad's colorful representation of life, you know, in her early years, and over the course of the movie, she begins to learn more and more about the other side, you know, the less colorful, the less bright and exciting parts of her dad. And so that's, you know, that's generally the journey that we're kind of using with the cinematography and the way people are styled and the colors that we're using.